All right, friends, welcome to Sunday Nights Live. I'm so glad that you guys are here and joining us. If you are one of our 8th grade friends, I want to extend a very special welcome to you. We are so excited for you guys to be hanging out with us tonight for high school preview night. We know this is not how we normally do high school ministry. We know that this is not even how we wanted to celebrate you and how we wanted to welcome you into the HVC family, but we're so glad that you guys are here and tuning in this way, and that we are still able to have this connection point and this time together, even if we're not able to be together. But a little orientation for you. My name is Katie. I am the high school ministry director here at Hunt Valley Church, which means it's my job to hang out with you, which means I've got the best job in the whole wide world. You will hear that from me a lot. We have a bunch of fun things in store for you. We've got a bunch of videos. We've got games. We've got announcements. We've got giveaways. We've got worship. We've got a talk. It's going to be a good time tonight. So we're so glad that you're here. We hope that this gets you a little bit excited for what's coming next. And high school friends, be super welcoming. We want them to come back. So with that in mind, we're going to skip ahead to our leader giveaway. So for the last few weeks, we have been giving away Dunkin' Donuts breakfast to whoever answers this trivia question correctly. So if you are the first one to comment with the correct answer, we will give you Dunkin' Donuts. And tonight's question comes from Emily, one of our senior girl leaders.
Hi guys, happy Sunday. My trivia question today is, what is my favorite summer Sunday nights activity?
All right, so summer Sunday nights, it is hopefully coming soon. Cross your fingers that we are allowed to gather in groups outside, but as soon as it does, what is Emily's favorite summer Sunday nights activity? 8th graders, you are welcome to join us for summer Sunday nights. It is a blast. You'll have a ton of fun, and it is just a great chance for you to kind of get a feel for HVC High School and what we're all about. Great chance for us to connect with each other and hang out. But what is Emily Russell's favorite thing to do as a part of summer Sunday nights? While you guys are thinking through that and typing in your answers, giving away a couple guesses, we have a little promo video for you. Yeah, so some of our students and leaders, or not even leaders, just students, were throwing in answers and helping us come up with a little bit of a feel for what normal Sunday nights is like. So one of our students, Juliana, a huge shout out to you for putting together some of these videos. So here is a little taste of what normal Sunday nights looks like.
One of the highlights for me at Sunday nights is hanging out with my friends. Whether it's just talking about God or things that are going in our life, we all listen to each other, and it's just a great atmosphere.
I think one of my favorite parts of Sunday nights will be the small groups, because I love being able to ask and see what my friends think about it.
Highlight of Sunday nights for me is small groups, because I get to walk through my faith with people that are going through some of the same stuff as me.
My favorite thing about Sunday nights is seeing people that I don't get to see during the week at school, and it's just a really good way to start off your week.
My favorite part about Sunday nights is worship and doing the worship team. It's been so much fun, and I'm so grateful for that experience.
I like the trivia games on Sunday nights.
My highlight of Sunday nights is the games in small groups.
My favorite part about going to Sunday nights is being able to see my friends and also being able to see my leaders.
My favorite part of Sunday nights is small groups, because it's an amazing way to connect with both your awesome small group leaders and your fellow students in your grade and gender.
My favorite part about Sunday nights is probably the games. Everybody loves the games.
On a regular Sunday night, I love to play the games. That's my favorite thing, and also to be able to see my friends again.
About HVC High School is on Sunday nights you get to come together and be all together, and you get to see all your friends and your leaders. Like in your core groups, you can open up to your friends and people. My leader, Miss Pam, is the best.
The highlight of my Sunday nights is playing 9 Square and worship.
Juliana, thank you so much for that. I love all those different voices and faces. Friends, I have so missed seeing you all on a regular weekly basis, and it made me honestly like almost a little sad just missing this time together, but so excited for our next chance to be gathered together. But we're going to switch gears a little bit. Time to play a game. So we are going to play a game tonight that's called 3-Year-Old Pictionary. We are going to show a video, or not a video, we're going to show a slide, and you need to guess what the 3-year-old was drawing, which let me tell you, this is easier said than done. So looking at this picture, you need to guess A, B, or C. Was this 3-year-old trying to draw a vampire, an angry cow, or the monster Kael'thas Sunstrider, the master of the Burning Legion? What do you think the child was trying to draw? A, B, or C? A vampire, angry cow, or the master of the Burning Legion? You need to put your guess in the comments as we try to decipher these chalk drawings. I don't know about you, but chalk art is not my best kind of art, but I'm very curious to see what you guys are able to come up with. Vampire, angry cow, or the master of the Burning Legion? He does look very imposing. But as you guys are going ahead and getting your guesses in, the correct answer was indeed... Are you kidding? A. The correct answer was A. It was a vampire. Let's see if we have any of the rest of these slides, because I imported them 4 times. So these should work. Let's see, and we don't, which means that you guys got the first one, and we are going to call it at that. I don't understand why some of this technology is fighting us on that, but good news for you. Juliana was very generous with her time, and not only did she make one video, but she made a whole second one too. So we love to play games and hang out, and normally the games go a little bit better than this, but we also have a lot of fun going on different trips and events, and so we want to give you a little taste of what you have to look forward to in regards to that as well. So let's check it out.
My favorite event, or one of my favorites, is the Great Pumpkin Hunt.
My favorite event at HVC is the Great Pumpkin Hunt.
Looking back on some of my favorite things in Hunt Valley High School, ministry, definitely number 1, the trip to Bahamas.
Also, favorite trip will be winter retreat. I love it every single moment. 10 out of 10, no cap.
One of the most memorable trips and events I've been on was the Bahamas missions trip. It was a great place to just encounter God and learn more about Him. It was a great time to connect with my friends and my leaders, and to just really dig into God and just experience Him and His Spirit.
I love like after-hour game nights, and we have like holiday celebrations.
Some of my most memorable trips with HBC High School is Hershey Park when I was in 8th grade at the beginning of summer, and the second one was when we went on the Bahamas missions trip. That was a lot of fun.
I love the Bahamas missions trip and the winter retreat.
Memorable trip was the winter retreat when we got to go skiing.
My favorite trip that I've been on with HVC is the Bahamas mission trip this past summer.
My most memorable trip with HVC was winter retreat.
All right, so clearly we do a lot of fun trips and events as well. So lots of fun things in store for you guys to look forward to. And speaking of things to look forward to, it is time for our favorite announcer, Mr. Jared Weinberg, to make sure that we are in the loop with what is coming up next.
Hey guys, welcome to another announcement session with Jared. If I have not met you yet, I'm one of the volunteers here. This year I got to hang out with the 12th grade dudes. So, but I also get to do the announcements every now and then, and I get to shout things at you of all the fun things we have going throughout the week and then into the summer. So we get to hang out with more than just Sunday nights. As you guys already know, this is a very special Sunday night as we get to welcome our 8th graders here. Yo, we are bummed we are not seeing you in person at this moment, but we are excited you get to hang out with us. We're glad we got to see those videos of what the other high school kids have seen throughout the week and what they the past year, what they love about it. And we are excited that you can hang out with us tonight and then obviously the next 4 years. So I'd like to welcome you and anyone else new to Sunday nights, and specifically to the roof of my house. Yeah. Jared, why are you sitting on the roof of your house, you might ask? Well, small fact about me is I have 3 wonderful, lovely, joyful, just hilarious kids. And when you're in a house for what is now 9 weeks, it is continued to get smaller, and I've literally run out of places to hide, except for this one place. So welcome to my last place in my house where I can find just peace. And after a few announcements, we're gonna just go away and give me a few minutes to myself before Kylie finds out, and then I have to go back to being a father again. But until that happens, welcome. Oh, goodness gracious. We are a little bummed out that we did not get to go to Vermont this year. If you've not heard, they are postponing it. They did mention it had to do with the coronavirus, but we actually know what the truth was. They saw about the announcements and they heard about the sheer number of people we were bringing up there, and they were terrified. They thought for sure we were going to take over the Ben & Jerry's factory because that was going to happen, obviously. But they were also a little scared of just bringing that many people up from Baltimore. They know how terrible the Patriots are going to do this year, and they were afraid that you were just going to turn everyone into Ravens fans up there. So they said, please just stay in Baltimore. So out of respect, because that's what Christians do, we're going to stay in Baltimore this year and have a fantastic Impact Week. I love Baltimore. And I know some people might be bummed about staying local, but it is a really fun city. And I know last week we talked a lot of fun facts about Vermont. They got this pumped up. And I'm like, let's just do it again for Baltimore. I looked up fun facts of Baltimore, and there are a ton out there. Like probably 100 to every one that Vermont had. So I had to pick through the best ones. So obviously the one I stuck with was, did you know the first umbrella factory? Yes, the first umbrella factory was started in Baltimore. Wow, what a great city. Also, the post office started in Baltimore. All right, fine. Those are weird ones. We actually have some really good ones. There are more statues and monuments per capita in Baltimore than any U.S. city, including one of our more famous monuments is the Washington Monument. Fun fact about that is the same guy who did that one did the one down in D.C. He did the Baltimore one first. D.C. was so impressed with it that they hired the same guy, gave them more money to build a taller one. You know what that's called? That's called someone who is insecure about what they believe in. They saw something, and all they had to do, the only creative thing that they could do is hire the same guy, copy the same thing, and give him more money. I love being better than DC, and that is one of my favorite fun facts about Baltimore. The second part about being better than DC is during the War of 1812, DC collapsed immediately because they're just sissies. Then the British came up here and they couldn't. Did you know that Baltimore is the only U.S. city in the colonial cities that never came under British control? DC, we just talked about it. Nothing. Philly, New York City, Boston, all during the American Revolution. British flags flew over all those cities, never Baltimore. It was always a U.S. flag. It is a fantastic city. We have one full week here to make a huge impact. And then what? Then we get to stay here and actually see our impact changes people. So we are not having an information session that we had scheduled for this Tuesday. We're postponing it, getting things, obviously we have to get a new schedule of events and new itinerary together. We will be meeting as soon as we get that together to find out what the fun things we're going to do about Baltimore. Oh, after that, we are not meeting next Sunday for Memorial Day. Obviously, get to spend a long weekend with our family, have fun, eat some hot dogs, and enjoy the only city that never came under British control. And make sure you rub it into DC's face. Oh my God, it's so pretentious down there. Last announcement is, like usual, we're meeting our small groups right after this. If you have not seen the Zoom link yet, hopefully you're getting it right about now. And this is where we split into our small groups. And so just click on the link right after this, and we're going to hang out just for a few more minutes and talk about what we learned and catch up throughout the rest of the week. And that's it, guys. So please enjoy the rest of this Sunday service and go away just for a few minutes. See you guys.
Well, glad Jared was able to get a little peace and quiet to be able to film that video for us. Alexandra, I do agree. Jared, you probably should consider a career change to become a high school teacher or high school history teacher one day. So another part of Sunday Nights Live, Sunday nights that we just love in general, is time in worship together. You heard it in the earlier video, our students talking about both being on the worship team, but then also just getting to worship as a group. So we have kept that together as a part of Sunday Nights Live. So let's head on over to the Mace's house as they lead us in worship tonight.
Hey guys, welcome back to our patio. We're so excited to have you with us, and we would encourage you just to join in and sing, stand if you want to, clap if you want to. But we're going to make a joyful noise together tonight.
Well, a huge thank you, Wes and Micaiah, for leading us in that way. We're going to transition a little bit, head on over to this week's talk. But first, will you join me in prayer? Dear Father, I just thank you for this time to gather, to learn about you, to enjoy one another's company, to laugh and to worship and to encounter you. God, I pray that these words would be your words and not my own. God, that you would speak and that you would work and that you would be doing things here in this time and in this space and in this season that you couldn't do any other way. So God, we love you and we trust you. We are excited to see what you're doing while we're all separate, and we cannot wait until we get to be all together again. God, in your name I pray. Amen. All right, friends. So if you have not been around HBC High School a bit, we have been in the middle of a series that we are calling What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. And as a part of that series, we have been looking at the life of Joseph, which has been honestly pretty insightful and a little almost eerie, just how similar or just how applicable the things that happened in his life are to what's going on in our world today. So with that in mind, let me tell you a little story to get us started. So a few months ago, a friend of mine reached out and asked if I was free the following Friday. And she is one of those friends who normally, if she asks you to do something, she has some sort of adventure in her back pocket. So you want to say yes when she offers you an invitation. And so I was free, so I promptly said yes. And she texted back immediately saying that she had an extra ticket to the Jonas Brothers concert up in Hershey Park the following weekend, and I absolutely had to go with her. Which cracked me up a little bit because we were, at the time, both 27 years old, and I was never really the biggest Jonas Brothers fan. I liked some of their stuff as a kid, but I certainly had not listened to them since then. But I was like, you know what? She's the kind of friend you adventure with, so heck yes, I'm in. We were getting kind of excited about it until I looked online and saw the ticket prices, and let me tell you, they were expensive. And if any of you guys know anything about me, I am a little on the thrifty side. And so when I saw that, my heart kind of fell a little bit because I had already committed, but then I also knew I had just committed to spending way more money on this next weekend than I had anticipated. And so I texted my friend. I was like, hey, so like, what's the deal on the tickets? Like, I wasn't going to back out, but was kind of hurting a little bit knowing just how expensive this was going to be. And then she surprised me. She texted back saying that originally she was supposed to go with another friend, but the other friend had to cancel. And so that friend was going to give me her ticket. And that friend not only was going to give me her ticket, she didn't want me to pay her back, which was crazy. Like, it was a really expensive concert, and I didn't know this person at all. And yet this person was like, you know what? No, take it. Go. Have fun. You don't need to pay me back at all. And now, not being asked to pay back an expensive concert ticket, or if someone buys you lunch, something like that, like that's a good moment. Like, you're feeling good, you're excited, and it's kind of like a nice, heartwarming kind of story, right? But normally when we talk about the phrase payback, we're not really talking about that scenario. Outside of paying back money for something that someone owes you, normally what we're talking about when we are referring to being paid back, dang it, now the slides are fighting me again. We'll just go with this. When we're talking about payback, normally we're talking about what it means when someone hurts us. When someone talks about us behind our back, we want payback. When someone flirts with our girlfriend or our boyfriend, we want payback. When someone fails to text us back or doesn't invite us to the group outing, we want payback, right? That feeling when we get hurt and our initial reaction is to kind of lash back out. We want payback. We fight back. We want to get even. We want them to feel some of the pain or the hurt that maybe we had felt in that moment. We want them to be embarrassed the way that we were embarrassed. More often than not, our first reaction is to get even, or at least get something in return. Even if it's just knowing that our shady Snapchat comment was actually about them, even if they didn't catch it. So sometimes getting back at someone is a public affair. It's where we make sure to do to them what they did to us in some sort of obvious way. Whether it's talking trash about a person who talked badly about us, or when we roast someone in front of everybody, but then we add the just kidding on the end to like make it okay. Or maybe we're being more subtle than that. Maybe we make comments that aren't obviously hurtful, but could be interpreted that way. We put that subtle post on social media. We roll our eyes when someone else is talking. We ignore someone's text even though we saw it, but they can wait a little bit before we get back to them. Or other times we don't do anything at all. We just get satisfaction out of waiting for them to fail. Maybe our ex broke up with us for someone else, and so when they get dumped, you feel good. Or maybe your mom snapped at you and hurt your feelings, and now she's crying and apologizing, and it feels a little good. Or maybe that guy that made fun of you in 7th grade falls flat on his face in the middle of the pep rally, completely embarrassing himself, and you feel like, yes, that payback that I deserved. In those moments, it kind of feels like justice almost. It feels good to see someone get what's coming to them, whether that's a good thing or more often maybe a bad thing. But what do we do? That's what we're talking about tonight. What do we do when we get hurt, especially when it's our instinct to fight back? And Joseph's story ends talking about that very question. What do we do when we encounter hurt and our natural reaction is to hurt or to fight back? So in this series, we have been journeying through the life of Joseph. His story is found in the book of Genesis, and his story is a wild one. It should have been made into more movies. There's a whole musical about his life that is very popular. But in week 1 of this series, we looked at how Joseph was clearly his father's favorite. Everyone knew it. His brothers were really not a fan of him at all. And then Joseph also started having dreams. He started having dreams where he was in charge and his entire family had to come and bow down to him. Really kind of rubbing that whole favorite child thing in the face of his other brothers. Things escalated, and Joseph's brothers decided, you know what, we're going to kill him. Like, we're just done. We are going to get rid of this dreamer. We're over this. And they were about to go through with it when some traders came by on their way out of town. And so they said, you know what, let's make a quick buck off of him instead. And so they sold him to these people who then sold him into slavery in Egypt. And they got rid of Joseph, but let me tell you, Joseph's life only got crazier from there. Over the few weeks that followed, that was just week 1, but the couple weeks we talked about since, we've seen how Joseph's life got even crazier, how Joseph became a slave in Egypt, how Joseph became a slave in prison in Egypt because of something he was accused of but didn't even do, and then how from there Joseph ended up becoming the man who interpreted dreams for Pharaoh, who basically ruler over all of Egypt. Yet every time that things shifted for Joseph, we're reminded again and again and again throughout the book of Genesis as it's telling Joseph's story that God was with Joseph and that God was working in Joseph and that God was working on Joseph's behalf despite all the circumstances. And eventually, Joseph gets placed in charge of basically all of Egypt. He's placed second in command to Pharaoh, which really is not that bad of an outcome for a kid who is sold into slavery by his brothers. But there's one more plot twist that we're going to look at tonight. After Joseph was second in command, there was a famine that affected not just Egypt, but all the land surrounding Egypt as well, which meant that Joseph's family was also affected by this famine. And at this point in the story, Joseph's family thinks he's dead, but they're starving. They hear that there's food in Egypt, and so Joseph's father, Jacob, sends his brothers and says, hey, go to Egypt. Go to Egypt and try to buy as much food as you can and bring it back with us. And they were hopeful that maybe they would get what they needed to survive. However, when the brothers arrive in Egypt, they get sent to Joseph, who is second in command over all of Egypt, a very powerful man, and who was in charge of distributing food not only to the Egyptians, but to other people who might have come and bought from them. However, it's been 20 years. 20 years. He was 17 years old when he was sold into slavery. He is almost 40 at this point. The brothers don't recognize him. he's been practically dead in their minds for so long. And they encounter him, but the brothers don't recognize Joseph, but Joseph sure recognizes his brothers. And so there's a lot of drama that ensues, a lot of back and forth, and we don't have time to go through all of it tonight, but I would highly recommend go check out Genesis chapters 42 through 50. There's a lot there that not only is just a really fascinating story, but is a lot more to what we're talking about tonight as well. But for today, we're picking things up in Genesis chapter 45 with our scripture reader friend. We're going to head on over to Douglas Maddox for today's scripture reading.
Genesis 45, 1 through 15. Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that all the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard it. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" But his brothers were not able to answer him, because they were terrified at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing or reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you for a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father, and say to him, 'This is what your son Joseph says. God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen, and be near me, you, your children, and your grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly." Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin embraced him, weeping. And he kissed him all his brothers, and wept over them. Afterward, his brothers talked with him.
So think about this for a second. So Joseph is second in command. He's in a really high and powerful position. And in walks his brothers. In walks his brothers who tried to kill him, who sold him into slavery, who separated him from his family for the last 20 plus years, who made him a slave, who indirectly threw him in prison. If there's ever a moment where you're like, dang, I get to give you everything you deserve. I have the power to make you pay me back for everything that just happened. I'm going to exact my revenge on you. I'm going to make things even. I'm going to make you hurt the way that you hurt me. Joseph has that moment. And what does Joseph do with it? Joseph could have refused them food. He could have said, you know what, go back home. I'm not going to sell you anything. He could have thrown them in prison and maybe given them a taste of their own medicine. He could have even had them killed. They certainly weren't afraid to try to do that to him. Pause for a second. What would you do? If you were face to face with the person who's hurt you the most, or maybe the people who have hurt you the most, and you were in a position to do anything you wanted back to them, honestly, what would you do? Like, think about it for a second. Like, gut reaction, if you're super honest with yourself, what would you do? Joseph asked his brothers to come near to him. He draws them in close. He sends everybody else away, and he says, hey, brothers, come here. I am Joseph. Let me tell you who I really am. Let me show you who I really am. The brothers are terrified. I can only imagine the anxiety that they're feeling in this moment. And what does Joseph say? Joseph says this, I am your brother Joseph, the one that you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed. Do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me here ahead of you. For 2 years now, there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years, there will be no plowing or reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. Now, friends, there is only one reason Joseph responded in that way. He didn't try to get payback. He did not exact revenge on his brothers because he had already let go of the idea of revenge. He already had done the hard work of forgiveness. How do we know that? Because Joseph's response, the very first thing he says, is he speaks into what his brothers are feeling. He says, don't be afraid. Like, come here. Do not feel angry with yourselves. Do not be distressed. Do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. He acknowledges their wrong and his hurt without creating more hurt. Only a healed person can do this. Only someone who has forgiven others can do this. Joseph chose forgiveness over payback. And in that moment of his greatest opportunity for revenge, Joseph chooses to embrace his brothers rather than fight against them. In the 20 plus years between being sold in slavery and being reunited with his brothers, Joseph did the hard work of giving the hurt that he felt to God and relying on God for the healing. And that's why Joseph was quick to acknowledge God in the area where his brothers caused him the most pain. It didn't make what his brothers did okay. It didn't even pretend like it didn't hurt, but it put God in the center of the whole thing instead. And because Joseph switched his focus point from just the hurt and his anger at his brothers to God and what God was doing in that moment, forgiveness was possible. And forgiveness was not just for his brothers, but it was freedom from Joseph's pain as well. Joseph goes on to tell his brothers to go get their father, to move their entire family to Egypt because the famine would continue. And without making this move, his family would suffer. And then what does he do next? How does that passage end? He kissed all of his brothers and wept over them, and afterward his brothers talked with him. Joseph didn't pursue payback, he reached for reconciliation. This is where we see God do the impossible in a relationship, bringing healing and wholeness and restoration where there had only been hurt. And he was able to do all of this because of forgiveness. When it comes to other people hurting us, we too have the opportunity to choose something better than payback. And to remember this. When you don't know what to do, fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back. When you don't know what to do, fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back. And ultimately, isn't that what Jesus did? Jesus, even more so than Joseph, had the ultimate reason to pursue revenge. Unlike Joseph, whose pride really amplified the situation, really antagonizing his brothers, Jesus did nothing wrong. Jesus lived the perfect life, and yet he was murdered. He was murdered for your sake and for mine. But even when the Roman soldiers were nailing him to that cross, how did Jesus respond to that? When the soldiers were nailing him to the cross, when the guards were gambling for his clothing, when the crowds were mocking him, Jesus used some of his very last breath to say these words, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Friends, it's because of Jesus, because of his forgiveness for us, because of the wholeness and the healing that we have in relationship with him, that we are able to, just like Joseph, do the really hard work of fighting for forgiveness instead of fighting back. Like both Jesus and Joseph, when you fight for forgiveness, you fight for the relationship. In other words, you can fight to win, you can fight to be right, you can fight to make a point, or you can fight the urge for payback and fight for peace instead. You can't do both, however. Joseph preserved his relationship with his brothers because he chose peace. And he was only able to do that because he fought for forgiveness instead of fighting against his brothers. And he was only able to forgive with the help of God. Joseph didn't have a superpower that allowed him to just forgive no matter what happens. He just had the determination to work for forgiveness, to put in the work that forgiveness requires. And Joseph also had an understanding that God was doing more in his situation than even he realized. And friends, you and I can do the same. We can put in the hard work for forgiveness, and we can pay attention to the fact that God might be doing more with our hurt than we even realize. And like both Jesus and Joseph, when you fight for forgiveness, you surrender your hurt and your desire for payback to God. You let go of revenge. You say goodbye to your desire to get even, and instead you choose the path of forgiveness. You choose to lean into God's story of reconciliation instead of your own story of payback and revenge. This is easier said than done, and this might be something that you need to work at daily and keep leaning into. But the ultimate benefit is for you. You not only will have peace with them, but you'll have peace within you as well. So I know what we just talked about can get a little complicated. Your story is different than mine, and your story is different than Joseph's even. In fact, I could probably tell you a dozen different stories of hurt, of needing to choose forgiveness, and not a single one of them would be yours or even fully resemble yours. Maybe even as we've been talking about what it means to forgive, to fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back, maybe you've thought of a hurt. Maybe you've thought of something or someone who's hurt you, who that place that's kind of tender, that's still sore, that still smarts a little bit when you think about it. And maybe you've been wondering, do you always need to reconcile? Do you always need to become friends again? What about when the relationship is toxic? Like, what do you do then? What if you're the one that did the hurting? Maybe you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do when I'm the one who caused all the pain? Each one of us has unique and complicated different situations, and figuring out what it looks like to fight for forgiveness isn't always easy or clear cut. But friends, that's what core groups are all about. And that's why we have a community of people around us. We need to have people who we can talk through these things with. That's why you have a core group leader who loves you, who's wise, who wants to talk through these different scenarios with you and point you to Jesus and point you on the path towards forgiveness. We want to talk about what this looks like for you in your real life, with your real friends, with your real family. And so as we get ready to head over to small groups in just a couple of minutes, think about what you have the power to do when it comes to fighting for forgiveness. What do you need to decide? Who do you need to forgive? What offense do you need to bring to God? God can do incredible things with your story. God can do incredible things with the hard places of your story, with the hurt in your story. God can bring you healing in a way that you can't even imagine right now. And God can walk with you down this road to forgiveness to find the freedom that you're really longing for. God can do incredible things in your story that you might not even be able to imagine yet, if only you let Him, if only you fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back. So friends, when you don't know what to do, fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back. Let's pray, and then we will continue on in worship tonight. God, I thank you for Joseph's story and for the way that Joseph's story gives us a small glimpse of foreshadowing of your own. God, I thank you that in Jesus we have the greater and the better Joseph, that Jesus not only forgave, but he forgave when he did nothing wrong in the first place. And God, because of that, because of the forgiveness we know in Jesus, because of the encouragement of stories like Joseph, Lord, I pray that we might fight for forgiveness in our own lives as well. Whatever that means and whatever situation our friends are facing right now. God, I pray that they would fight for forgiveness instead of fighting back. That urge to get even, to get payback, to get revenge, that they would let that go and trust you with it and trust that you are good, that you care, and that you are doing more than they could ever imagine. God, we love you and we trust you. Amen. So let's close out this time with another song in worship.
My favorite thing about my core leaders and group members is that they're always there to talk whenever I need to, and they're so supportive.
I love my core groups and core group leaders because we all get really close to each other. And we can also seek guidance not only from our leaders, but with the people in the group.
My favorite part of small group is learning about God.
Core groups are awesome. We got a lot of confidentiality. You say whatever you want.
Why I love small groups is because they're fun and I get to hang out with my friends and leaders.
I love spending time with my core group each week because they are just some of my best friends. I love them so much. And I love my leaders because they are so fun and encouraging.
What I love about my leaders is that they really listen and see what I'm going through. They want to talk and they want to grow me into who God is making me.
I like my small group
because it is a safe place to talk and my leaders are always willing to give advice.
All right, friends, if you see Juliana Millay around anywhere, if you have her phone number, go ahead, shoot her a text right now. Tell her what an awesome job she did on those 3 videos. So that's about it for Sunday Nights Live tonight. We do have 2 quick last things for you. First, the answer to the trivia question, Emily's favorite summer Sunday nights activity is Ultimate Frisbee. If you have played Ultimate Frisbee with Emily, you for sure know that this is her all-time favorite thing. That girl is intense. I love it. So I think Sophia Parsons, I think you were the name that I saw pop up first, student-wise anyway. Abby Blackburn saw that you got that correct as well, but Dunkin' Donuts goes to the students. And then let's see if our other thing will work. So any of you who put in stuff for the videos, who sent in some of this stuff, we're so thankful for you. So we thought we'd do another little giveaway there as well. So go ahead, get ready. We're gonna give that thing a little spin. Alessandra Phelps, you also are going to get Dunkin' Donuts this week. So Sophia Parsons, Alessandra Phelps, we will be in touch. Looking forward to dropping that off for both of you. Very well deserved. And friends, that's it. Go on, head on over to core groups and we will see you over on Zoom. If you do not have that link, text me, drop the comment in, we will get that to you ASAP. But so looking forward to seeing you guys on Zoom. Thanks for hanging out. 8th graders, I hope you guys enjoyed your first little taste of Sunday Nights Live. We cannot wait for you to be up in person. Friends, we will see you soon. See ya.